Good evening. Thank you, friends, for coming this evening. We're very pleased to have this event tonight, special event sponsored by Lifelong Learning. So I'm very pleased that for this evening's events, Russell Regan will be our MC for the evening. And may I introduce Russell?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for turning out tonight. It's great to have each and every one of you here. I just came from our fabulous green room, the liquor's flowing, and, it's quite something back here in our little green room. Many, if not most of you, have never seen me not in shorts, but I thought this occasion, dictated, something else. So anyways, here we are. Tonight, our first performer is a comedian, an award-winning storyteller, improv performer, and writer who uses comedy as her therapy in order to tackle whatever adversity and suburban chaos that comes her way. A multiple Moth Story Slam winner, she's been featured on the Risk podcast and has performed throughout the Bay Area, including Luther Burbank Center, Cobb's Comedy Club, and the Bankhead Theater, where she recently opened for Kevin Nealon. Please put your hands together and give a warm and so welcome to Regina Stoops.
Thank you. Keep it going for Russell. For getting out there and being our MC, huh? Yeah, I was expecting snow. All right, well, and so I'm so happy to be here. I feel like whenever I come to visit Mary, I love to come and visit her. It's like I see a calm in a world of chaos when I come. And I feel like I'm with my people. I feel like I'm with people who understand, what it is to suddenly find yourself in a room or on stage and go, why am I here? Where are my glasses? And I just love it. I'm from the Midwest, so this is a very California place. Let me just say that, because in the Midwest, this would not be like this. I mean, sure, we have retirement homes and senior communities, but if this was in the Midwest, there'd be a smoking section in the dining hall, and it'd be right next to the all-beef buffet, and next to the Thirsty 32 Slurpee machine. So I am from the Midwest. I am from a small town in Illinois. Do we have Midwest folks? Anybody who's made it out? Oh, look at everybody. We're all from the Midwest. We just, en masse, we got on the caravan and came out. So I'm from a small town in Illinois called Normal, Illinois. All right, there you go, Normal. And woo, go Normal. I like to do my high school cheer for you. So everybody, give me an O. O. Give me a K. K. What's that spell? Okay. We're okay. You're not okay. We're normal. You're not. Our school mascot was a bell curve. But I was not a cheerleader in high school. Not a cheerleader. I wanted to date the cheerleaders when I was in high school. For those few of you that might not have gotten the bell curve joke, I'll spell it out. I'm from Normal, and I'm gay. I don't know why I'm gay. I think my 7th grade history teacher, Mr. Belcher, I think he knew I was gay because he insisted on calling me Regina the entire 7th grade. Those kind of memories just stick with you forever. So I've been in California for many, many years. Got out of Normal, came to California, as most of you have done as well. And I am married to my lovely wife, Diane. I think we're married. We don't know. They keep changing the rules. But regardless, we've been together for 34 years. Thank you. Thank you. And I think, if you've been in a long-term relationship, that things change when you've been with somebody. And by the way, 34 years for us, that's like 137 in heterosexual years. I don't know if you know that. So when you've been with somebody for 137 years, things change a bit. I'm just saying we're buying our adult toys that relax the back, and we are well past that pick your spouse up at the airport stage, and we're very quickly approaching get an Uber home from outpatient surgery. Diane and I we have 3 kids. We had 3 kids within 4 years. We're Catholic, and think about that one for a minute. You'll get it. But we have three kids, 3 boys, and Diane gave birth to the kids, and I'm the stay-at-home mom. And by the way, if you know anybody who is thinking about having a kid, get somebody else to have it for you, because it just really streamlines the process. Also, you should take the drugs. Take them early, take them often. I started taking them in the first trimester just to take the edge off. She's fast. She got it first. She's like, oh, wait a minute. You weren't the one that was pregnant. So I'm the stay-at-home mom. They call Diane mommy for obvious reasons, and they called me Oma, which I know now means grandmother in several languages. We thought it meant other ma in lesbian, but we had our kids a little late in life, and I'm just saying I think it's sad when you can't tell your kids apart when you don't have your glasses on. You're like, okay, mister, you are in big, you need to back up a few feet. Honey, is this one of ours? I don't know who this is. Saying I'm shopping for back to school clothes using my AARP card. And you may have had your kids a little late in life. When my son is getting brochures and letters from colleges, wanting to recruit him, and I'm getting brochures from the Neptune Society. So that's how old I am. So when you have 2 parents and same gender, it doesn't matter. I guess what I'm trying to say, gender really doesn't matter at all with 2 parents. Whenever you have 2 human beings that are raising children, there's always one that follows the reasonable rules of parenting and one that lives in some sort of a parallel universe where those rules don't apply. That's the world where car seats are optional, apparently, and dessert can just be a meal. And it's my lovely wife, Diane, that lives in that parallel universe. And the kids know this, because when my then 8-year-old son, Jack, I was going back to normal to see my family, and he looked at me and he said, well, who's going to take care of us? I said, well, honey, I'm going by myself. Mommy's going to be here. I'm just going back by myself to see Grandma. And he looked at me like I was nuts, and the eyes got really big, and he's like, no, who's going to take care of us? Well, Jack, you're 8. You could probably handle it on your own. And then there was the time we sat down for a family dinner, and Jack, he says, my tongue really hurts. And I was like, because I'm the reasonable, responsible doctor mom. So I'm like, well, what happened, honey? Did you burn your tongue? Did you bite your tongue? What do you think happened? He's like, well, I think it's from trying to get the duct tape off my mouth. Oh, well, why did you have duct tape on your mouth, Jack? Well, last night when you were out, Mommy made up a new game called Duct Tape Escape. And Diane, I can see the wheels spinning. She's trying to figure out how she's gonna sell this and spin it so she doesn't get in trouble. And then the boys are trying. They sense that Mommy is swimming in some dangerous waters. So the young one pipes up and says, "It was really a lot of fun until I took the tape off and it pulled all the hair off my legs." I guess it started out innocently enough, 3 boys, a mom, and a roll of duct tape, and then it just spun out of control from there. So I turned to Diane and I said, honey, if you can't be the parent, could you at the least not be the kidnapper? But isn't that true? I mean, if you have been with a partner and had kids, there's always one that's just a little crazy. You know, the fun one and the reasonable one. I had to be the reasonable one. I had my fun moments, but still, I was the one who was taking them to the doctor, etc., and apparently trying to get the sticky tape off of their chin. Oh, so our oldest son, Ryan, when he was 3 years old, was diagnosed with autism. And I don't know quite how to say that, especially when he was younger, because it's like I have to come out for me, then I got to come out for him, and it's just a lot of information I need to get out at one time. And so I just like to meet people and say, my name's Regina, I'm a Catholic, Democrat, lesbian, suburban soccer mom, and I have an autistic son. Thank you. There's not enough room on my bumper for all of the ribbons that I need. I need like that one all-encompassing rainbow pride flag, autism, jigsaw ribbon, donkey kicking a soccer ball for Christ. And I actually have developed my own logo, which I'm going to show you. Here we go. Can you see that? All right. So this is thank you. This is the logo. It covers everything. The gay pride, the soccer moms, suburban, Catholic, autism, Democrat, there we are. It's all encompassing. And it shows where I'm from. Thank you. Ryan, he's a great kid. He's 21 now. He's doing very well. And when he was younger, his language, his expressive and receptive language difficulties, which is very typical for someone who has autism. And so he would pick his language up from the world around him. He would hear things on commercials and TV and movies, and then he would use that when he, felt that was the appropriate place to use it. So we had a power outage, as we tend to do here in California, and he was getting very upset about it because it's dark and it's getting cold and he can't be on his computer, and I can see him getting more and more agitated, and he's kind of rocking back and forth, mumbling under his breath. And all of a sudden, clear as a bell, I hear him say, PG&E, together we're building a better California. I think he speaks for all of us. Oh, I've seen a lot of you. I have pets, have dogs. I've seen a lot of folks out walking dogs here at Enso. It's very nice. They're very well-behaved dogs. We have a dog. It's a, I saw that. I said well-behaved, and one woman's like, some of them. We have a dog, a rescue dog. She came from Taiwan. And people are always like, does she understand English? I'm like, well, no, but she can order takeout, so it's... And when we first got her, so, two women with postgraduate degrees, we had to overthink everything, as you do. So we decided to do the crate training. Familiar with the crate training? It's where you put everything of value in your home in the crate, and you just let the dog run around for the first 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Highly recommend it. But she had one really annoying habit when we first got her, and that was, I'm going to put this, she would recycle her food. Okay, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, ooh, right. But you know what? They make a pill for that. I guess it makes their poop taste like crap. I don't know. Thank you. Sir in the back, thank you. Oh, but I never realized, right, okay, just what my dog needed to survive. I didn't know that she was going to need a raincoat and boots, right? I don't know how they survived, how the woolly mammoth, maybe that's how the dinosaurs went extinct, because they didn't have raincoats and booties. I don't know, but, and they had, new and improved pet food. Like, my dog eats her poop. I don't think she cares about the taste of her food so much. And okay, I love my dog, don't get me wrong. Don't judge me. But we take her to the vet, and the vet's like, the welcome, sort of, you have a new puppy, let's give you this new, welcome to being a dog owner kit. And it has a toothbrush and toothpaste in it. I'm like, yeah, unless, you got a couple of opposable thumbs in that bag, this is not going to happen. I mean, it's all I can do to get my kids to brush their teeth. And then my dog's very anxious, and so they thought perhaps we should go to a veterinarian behaviorist. I'm like, you know what, there is a long line of people that need therapy in my family, and she's at the end of the line. I'm gonna do it. And the vet was very, very serious, you know. Says, well, sorry, I have some bad news. Like, there's a shortage of the canine flu vaccine. Would you like to be put on the waiting list? Like, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice on this one. I'm gonna let Darwin take the wheel here, all right? And I'm just gonna hope for the best. I think she'll be all right. I mean, dogs have been on this earth in some form or other for centuries, and they've gotten by without the canine flu vaccine. So, I don't know. There you are. Don't judge me. I do love my dog. But she's anxious, as I said, and she is on anxiety medicine. Don't judge me. And she's very happy when she's on it, okay? She's very calm. She's much, much more at ease. But the problem is there's a lot of, you know, you get to a certain age, there's a lot of pills in the house. And a week or so ago, yeah, I took the dog's medicine. And I'm not the only one that's done this, because I swear, all I had to get to was I accidentally took an autofilled dog's medicine. So I'm not the only one who's Googled that. But it was fine. I mean, I felt a little dizzy for like an hour or two, but I also felt like I was being a very good girl. So it was all. Do we have any? There's a lot of lovely artwork that I see around here at Enzo, and so do we have some crafty artsy people in the audience? Show of hands. That's great. That's great. I can't do that. I'm not crafty. I'm not at all. I'm craft intolerant is what I am. I break into a cold sweat. I get within 100 yards of like a Hobby Lobby. I can't do it. Whether it's baking, it doesn't matter what it is. I had a friend of mine one time say, you know, I always wanted to make my own marshmallows. Like, that is a thought that's never even entered my head. No idea that was even humanly possible. You know, if I can make dinner using things that are in my house, I consider that living off the land, okay? I'm like the pioneer woman if I can come up with that. Oh. And the home repair shows, you know, the whole flip and flop and whatever that is, home improvement. I cannot relate to those at all, because they're always trying to turn like a storage shed into a Victorian mansion in one afternoon. I mean, how do you do that? I need a home repair show that teaches me just how much I need to jiggle the handle to get the toilet to stop running, right? That's the level that I'm at, I'm just saying. And, you know, if I had a home repair show, it'd be like, all right, everybody, welcome to It'll Have to Do, the home repair show for people with no skills or patience. I'm your host, Regina, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be hanging a picture, all right? So this is what you got to do. You got to find the stud, first of all, and it's very simple. You know, just knock on the wall. Stud, no stud. See, very simple. So then you're going to get a nail, right? And you're going to need something really solid and heavy to put that in. I mean, a hammer would be the perfect thing, but, you know, if you don't have one, you could probably use like a water bottle or a shoe, or, you know, the handle of a butter knife will work too. So just line that up right there, and then start tapping that in. Oh, all right, so that went in really easy. So that means we didn't find the stud, okay? So what you got to do then is pull that out and just move over a couple inches and just try it again and just keep going until you get to, you know, it's really hard, and then you'll find the stud. And, you know, you might bend the handle on that butter knife, but it's going to be worth it. And then just make sure your picture is big enough to cover all the holes that you've just put in the wall. And if you can, if your picture's not big enough, you can fill those holes in with toothpaste. That'll work really well. You guys work out? Do you guys do that? You have the nice pool here. I've been in your pool. It's very nice. You have exercise classes. You got to do that. You got to keep. It's not even that I'm trying to keep up. I'm just trying to stay upright. Because you get to a certain age, and you know, you don't recover the way that you used to, right? You just don't. I mean, when you're young, you could go out, you could party, you could dance, and then you could get up the next day and do it again, right? Now it's like I go to the doctor. I was like, I think I need some physical therapy. I can't lift my arm, you know, above my shoulder. She's like, well, what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. It's a funny story. I fell asleep on the couch. I was at the doctor, and the question that the nurse asked me was, "What was your tallest height?" Like, that is just cruel. Don't need to point that out to me. Oh my gosh. Oh, I wanted to ask, so has anybody here, like, can you build things and do things? Like, do you watch those home repair shows and think that you can do that? I mean, you're getting, yeah, somebody's pointing to the person next to them. I admire people that can do that. My dad, he built the house that I grew up in. Like, you know, he drew the plans, went down to the lumber yard, got the stuff, came home, and built a house. You know, I think it's a miracle if I can replace the battery in my key fob. That's a good one for me. Oh, well, so about 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with MS. It gets funnier. And oh, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh man, that poor woman. She had that really awesome logo, and now she's got to add MS. How's she going to do that, right? Well, I did, so I'm going to show you the new and improved logo. I just had to add MS, so now it's Ms. Normal. I'm really hoping I don't need to add anything else to this, because I think it's pretty perfect as it is. And by the way, if you like it or want to see it up close, I have things, I have magnets, I have mugs. Stop by and see me after the show. You can celebrate whatever part of normal you are. But I had to, so for me, MS means that I have difficulty walking and get tired very easily. And so we went on vacation, and I needed to use a wheelchair, which is very humbling. It's a very humbling experience to be in a wheelchair. But I was at the mercy of the person who was pushing me, who happened to be my lovely yet easily distracted wife, Diane. And she would also often just walk away and leave me. I'm sure she meant to come back. And I would have to get up and push my own wheelchair. There's no real cure for MS. There's medications that can hopefully slow the progress or take care of the symptoms, and so people use a lot of alternative medicine. So I decided I was going to try medicinal cannabis. Remember when it was medicinal? Now it's just fun for everyone. But I thought, you know, I'm a careful person, so I'm going to follow the instructions, right? I got an edible, and I read the instructions. Said take half. Wait 1 hour, see how it affects you before you take the other half. Do not take the other half until you know how it affects you. All right. Took half, waited an hour, nothing happened. Took the other half, and then in the middle of the family dinner, everything slowed way down. So I managed to sneak off into the office where I was just going to hunker down and ride it out. But I didn't want to ride it out alone. I didn't want my family to know I was Snoop Dogg baked. So I thought, well, I'll send a text, until I realized my thumbs were stoned as well. And at some point in the evening, I went from just incapacitated stoned to just really silly stoned. And folding laundry with my then 12-year-old son was like peeing my pants, gasping for air funny. I mean, fitted sheets, am I right? Oh, but I realized I had gone from trying to keep my parents from finding out I was stoned to trying to keep my kids from finding out I was stoned. And I wasn't sure if the 5th grade drug program covered how to tell if your mom is stoned. I do know that 5th grade Say No to Drugs and Alcohol program, it ruined drinking in our house for at least a year, because we tried to have a glass of wine with dinner. My son would be like, "You shouldn't have that." I'm like, "Honey, it's a glass of wine. It's fine." "Well, I hope you don't get drunk." I'm like, "Honey, I'm not. It's one glass of wine. I'm not going to get drunk. I cannot remember the last time I was drunk." "Well, that's because you were drunk." Kids. But back to the MS, because that's a gold mine of funny material. So when I was in the wheelchair, and we're on vacation, I'm in the wheelchair, and I'm just saying, nothing gets you to the front of the pre-board line at Southwest like being in a wheelchair with an autistic son. If you got that combination, you pretty much can sit in the cockpit, all right? I'm just saying. But I feel, the good folks at Southwest, they are going to wheel me all the way down the jetway, right? Right up to the door. And then I'm going to get up, because I can, and walk onto the plane. But I feel like people are judging me. I feel like they're like, look at her, she's faking. Shouldn't need that wheelchair. She is going to stand up. She's going to walk on that plane and get an aisle seat and an overhead bin. So, of course, I have to stand up to be like, thank you, Jesus! Thank you, Lord! I'm saved! And thank you. And so this has been lovely. We're going to bring Russell back up. I'm Regina Stoops. Come see me afterwards. Get some normal merch. And thanks so much for having me. This is great. You've been lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, let's give it up again for Regina Stoops. All right, so, hey Devante. Our next performer is a popular speaker, comedian, author, and contemplative storyteller who has been mining the rich veins of neuroses, inappropriate self-disclosure, and a remarkable life for her comedy material, this for the past 25 years. Let's give a warm welcome to our very own Mary Karuba.
Thank you very much. And let's hear it for Russell. Come on, our MC. And also Sky and Jeff, who literally at the last minute, we decided yesterday to do multi-camera filming and edit the film and actually make a nice movie to put on Enzo's YouTube page. So thank you to them also. And to Jean and Larry and the Lifelong Learning Group, we really appreciate being here. Regina, are you working your way slowly and carefully down the ramp? No, not distracting at all. We'll just talk about you the whole time till you get your seat. It's not a problem. Did everybody manage to fit in here without having to go out to Tierra Cucina? Did everybody get in?
There were a few people who were outside who wanted to be.
They wanted to be outside? Well, I wanted them to too. That's fine. Whatever. Okay, just 3 little things of business real quick before we get started. Number 1, do I look as good as I think I do? I thought so. And number 2, okay, this is kind of corny, but just like stay with me. I really like my audiences not to connect just with me, but to connect with each other, and we create a circle of connection. So, corny as it is, I'm going to ask you to look at the person sitting next to you. Just look at them in their eyes and give them a smile, and then touch them inappropriately. Sir, I said one person. One person. It's always somebody that takes it too far. Okay. And number 3 is, I know this was billed as me that I was going to do Enzo comedy, but here's the thing. Okay, all my Enzo comedy material is new material. And it's not the kind of material you can test out by going to clubs and little comedy things and trying it, because nobody cares that I think the carpets look like baby poop, okay? Nobody cares about how I feel about the buffet line, all right? So I can't really practice it. So I had planned to take 4 days. I cleared my calendar completely, 4 days before this show, to just develop my ENSO material and really work out the structure and the beginning, middle, and end. And then the election happened, and I spent 4 days in my pajamas, curled up in a ball, playing online Scrabble and avoiding reality at every possible turn, okay? So I did not really develop the ENSO material. So I'm going to do some other material for you, and I'm going to do the ENSO material, which I consider my weakest material, toward the end when maybe you can forget about it, okay? And it's more just like kind of a bitch session than it is a comedy routine. But I do want you to know, I'm going to continue working on the material. I am observing you all very closely. Every day. I'm observing the staff even more closely and the systems and procedure that run our little household here. So I have a lot of concepts of a lot of plans. I'll just say that, okay? So anyway, am I standing in an okay spot? Can you see me? My sister's the exact opposite of me, and when she was in college, she had to take beta blockers to get up in front of the class and read her paper, and she just almost faints at the thought of getting up in public. And every time I perform afterwards, she says, "How are we related? How are we?" And she said, "Do you know you always find the spotlight?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's so obvious, of course." And she's always running from it. Anyway, I'm very sorry that my mom's not here. Whenever I do local shows, my mother would always come to my shows. But what happened is I stayed off stages for about 3 years. I was going through a time of introspection and really looking at what I wanted to do in the next chapter of my life and how I wanted to put myself out in the world. And also during that time, my mother was dying and my sister and I were taking care of her full time. So it was a very intense period. So this is actually the first time that I've done comedy on a stage in 3 years, and one of the first times that I'm performing locally that my mom's not in the audience. And I always loved having her in the audience because I'd always, look at her, sort of catch eyes with her, and I knew we were both thinking the same thing. We were remembering all those times in my childhood that she said, "What do you think, you're a comedian? Think you're funny?" Well, yes, I do. And she always used to say when I was a kid, "Mary, nobody's paying you to put on a show." And I could not tell you how many shows my mother has come to or afterwards I've said, "Hey, Mom, how about all those people paying me to put on a show, huh?" And the one person that I've always wanted to invite to a show, and when I tell you that I went to any lengths to try to track her down to invite her to a show but could never find her, was Mrs. Bacon, my 5th grade teacher, who sent home this note to my mother after 5th grade career day presentations. "Mary was completely disruptive during each and every presentation at today's career day. Mary does not seem to realize that one cannot make a career out of being the center of attention." Oh, really? Okay. And really, with the life that I've lived, I almost couldn't not do comedy. I never wanted to be a comedian, ever. It was never a life dream or a goal. I wanted to write books and save, babies from orphanages. And, I had a lot of dreams, but like being a stand-up comedian wasn't one of them. But, okay, first of all, I was born and raised in San Francisco, raised by a Palestinian father and an Irish Catholic mother. That's weird enough. But when both sides of the family would be in our house at the same time, the Arabs and the Irish were always huddled around the kitchen table, poring over holy cards and telling me about the virtues of the Virgin Mary. And my Arabic aunts were in the living room doing the seductive dance of the 7 veils, all right? That's how that was. And later in life, it affected me too. I actually had to quit drinking because being Arab Irish, I would constantly get upset and take hostages and then get drunk and forget where I put them. So it was like, And the one thing I did appreciate, and I was raised mostly by the Arab side because the Irish side was in Chicago and all the Arab part of the family was in San Francisco, so I was raised with the food and the language and the dysfunction and all the rest of it. And the thing that I appreciated about my elderly aunts, which, and I'm not exaggerating, these women could create an entirely unnecessary crisis out of almost any situation whatsoever. An unlimited capacity for drama. And my favorite was my elderly Aunt Lily, who came from Damascus, who never did quite get a grasp on English because she was only here for 60 years. But anyway, she only listened to Arabic TV stations, only talked to Arab people, and I just adored her, and it was so easy to wind her up. And my siblings and I would ask her a seemingly innocent question like, "Aunt Lily, could I use your phone?" She would stop as if she had been shot in the back and wheel around and just cast this baleful gaze on the offending party. And then she'd start in. "You have to ask. You have to ask to use my phone. Honey, this is not my phone. This is your phone. Everything I have for you, honey, for you. If I have money, you take my last penny. Oh my God. If I have food, honey, you eat the last crumb, not me. I die, I starve. You eat it, honey. You." And she would get herself so worked up that she would forget what she was upset about in the first place. And she'd be like, "Honey, why you are talking like this to Aunt Lily? What I have done to you? Why you are upset with me?" No. Aunt Lily, I'm not upset with you. You got upset with me because I asked if I could use the phone. You have to ask. Here we go again. Here we go again. And it's hard to talk to them about things too. Like at one point I fell in love with the woman. I'd been with men. I fell in love with the woman and we ended up being together 13 years. And at a certain point I realized I was going to have to talk to my elderly Aunt Lily because my partner was going to come over, right? So I sat down with her and I very calmly explained the situation to her. And it seemed like it was really getting through. Oh, and by the way, people are always curious, and they always ask me, "Are you gay? Are you bisexual?" I mean, I've been married to a man, and I've been married to a woman. Okay, so if you want to know if I'm gay or bisexual or pansexual, I'm greedy. That's my sexual orientation. It's right in the name, LGBT. Anyway, so, okay, no tangents, Mary. All right, so my Aunt Lily, so I think I'm getting through to her, right? Until she pops up with this question. "Honey, when you get married, what your husband is going to think of this?" Like, okay. And then she was, "Excuse me for once, I really should have done this beforehand. This is so ungraceful." Okay. Excuse me 1 second. And don't mind while I surreptitiously look at my notes that are scotch taped to the table. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah. And then she's going on and on and on about, "Honey, I wanted you to marry a doctor or a lawyer." And I said, "Aunt Lily, that's funny because my new girlfriend is a doctor." "Oh, honey, what you are going to do, you love who you love." So that was Aunt Lily. I loved her to death. And when she was in a nursing home, I would go see her and she would make me do my imitation of Aunt Lily for all the orderlies. We'd have like a little show in her room. And I shouldn't even tell this because it's not even like a joke, but it just did something to me that I did the whole thing, you know, that you have to ask and some other jokes that I had about her. And after the orderlies left and when it was just us in the room and we're talking and she had this, and I was sort of parched from performing, And so she had this little jug of water, and I said, is it okay if I take a cup? And I swear to God, she said, you have to ask. Okay, also confusing things a bit and making my life a little more traumatic. My father was in the adult entertainment industry. Okay, my father was a real hustler. He always was. The only book I've ever seen him read is My Life in the Mafia. Okay, so that gives you a little idea of his life aspirations. And he was working as a waiter and a busboy and going to school at night to become a restaurant manager. And in the middle of that, and he's always been a gambler, he won a dirty bookstore in a card game. And then he parlayed that into a strip club. Then he parlayed that into a porno theater for straight people. Then a porno theater for gay people. Then the Market Street Cinema in San Francisco with lap dancing and fantasy booths and all the rest of it. And I was the only one in my family who knew. From the time I was, including my mother, my Irish Catholic mother, from the time I was 7 until we were all in high school, when everybody else found out, right? And it's a very, very strange world to be around. And I would always follow him. I'd follow him throughout the city. And I knew all the places that he went to, and I saw the theaters, and it was very confusing. And my siblings and I have talked about it a lot, like different ways it affected us. Like, we can't look at regular movie titles without immediately converting them to porn titles. Forrest Hump, you know, Romancing the Bone. But I have one taker for that joke right here. Thank you. And so my siblings and I, we were children of the porn. Okay, and then, is Sarah here? I think I hear Sarah's laugh. Yes, oh, Sarah, hello, okay. So then I used drugs and alcohol. There was a lot of trauma in my life that I'm not going to talk about now because it's a comedy show, but there was a lot of trauma, and I'm very grateful to drugs and alcohol because it kept me alive long enough to be able to get the help that I needed, and it was a strong enough painkiller that it helped me exist and survive. But I mean, I went downhill fast, really hard. I can't even get into all the details. My whole life was pretty traumatic. I was kicked out of 13 schools. I was made a ward of the court in the state of California when I was 13. I went to reform school for 2 years. Then I was out on my own when I was 15 and a half, the day I got my driver's permit, and supported myself ever since. And so it was intense. And my life just spun out of control. I was trying hard to hold on, but I just couldn't. And I reached this point where, as I told my friends and family, I was going to renounce all material possessions and go live off the land. Okay, first of all, being raised in San Francisco in a Palestinian family, we never went on picnics, okay? Never went camping, not a day in my life. The only connection that I ever had with nature was every Sunday I'd go to Golden Gate Park, sneak in the back of the Japanese tea garden, steal change out of the koi pond. That was it. That was my big nature excursion every week. And now all of a sudden I'm going to go live off the land. And so I tell everybody about renouncing all material possessions without telling them a little teeny tiny detail that I declared bankruptcy and lost everything. And then I took my little remaining possessions to this pathetic flea market in Sausalito where I was selling things like half a box of Tide soap, used light bulbs. And this one lady was like, "What kind of sale is this?" And I was like, "Hey, I got other customers, move it along, you know." And I was so embarrassed. And I go to a camping shop, and I'm sure the owner of the shop thought this was his bonanza day until he tried to cash the check. But I told him, well, I'm going camping. I've never been camping before. I need everything. And so he set me up with the tent and a tarp and a hibachi and a cooler and all the rest of it. And I actually went to Safeway And with a bad check, I bought firewood. A little box of firewood. Because it never occurred to me, you know, I'm going into the woods. I can probably find some wood there, you know? That little box of firewood lasted like 3 minutes out there, right? And a friend of mine, who I guess was sharing my delusion, gave me this buck knife, this really cool little buck knife that had a bear etched on it. And I was like, yeah, that's what I need. And I don't know what I thought I was doing with this buck knife, like I'm gonna stab raccoons, or I don't know what I thought I was gonna do with it. I used it a few times to like cut cheddar cheese and things like that, but anyway, so I packed up all my little camping material and my little Volkswagen, and I head over to my mother's house to say goodbye. And by the way, if you're ever gonna do something like this, don't go to your mother's house and say goodbye, just don't do it. Because I had the gall to say to her, you know, Mom, it's like when Jesus, I'm trying to use a Catholic reference for her, you know, and I'm like, when Jesus went off into the mountains for 40 days and 49, and I don't even think that was the right biblical reference. I think that was maybe Moses or so, I don't know. But anyway, like Jesus, and my mother just gave me such a disgusted look, and she said, Mary, Jesus did not have a Volkswagen and a cooler full of food, all right? So I just got in my car and drove north until I saw a big mountain. I didn't even know where I was going to go. Saw a big mountain, turned right, and lived in a tent for a year on Mount Shasta. And that's where I hit rock bottom. And then I came back and I got into recovery, and thank God I did. I got into recovery 37 years ago, 1987, when I was 30. And that makes me 67 now, because I don't want you to hurt yourself doing the math, okay? So it's 37 years ago, and thank God, and my life started to become everything I had always dreamed of. I wrote a book, I went to work investigating child abuse, and that's all I had ever wanted to do, was to protect kids. Because when I was about 7, I remember looking in the yellow pages of the San Francisco phone book, and I looked under beatings to see if there's anyone you could call if you're getting beaten up all the time, somebody that could help you, right? And as an adult, I wanted to be the person that people could call. So I did that, and Child Protective Services was rough, though. I mean, I did that as long as I could, but toward the end of my career there, I really wanted to pretend like I had Tourette's, just so when I was interviewing people, I could say, oh, so you say you didn't hurt your daughter? You piece of shit, I know you're lying. Oh, I'm sorry, my Tourette's. I'm sorry. Oh, forgive me. Please, I'm so sorry. Then I started doing a lot of lectures at treatment programs. Okay, this is how I accidentally became a comedian. So I'm doing a lot of lectures at treatment programs, and you have never seen an inattentive audience until you are talking to newly detoxing people who are in withdrawals, who have their codependent spouse who is filled to the brim with resentment and bitterness and is just shooting like icicles out of their eyes at the person. And this is who you're supposed to talk to and teach about early recovery. But I noticed that when I said something funny, they all sort of perked up a little and paid attention. And then I read this weird statistic where if you're laughing, I gotta breathe, I'm gonna hyperventilate, hold on. Okay, so if you're laughing when you hear something, you're like 60 times more likely to remember it. So I started really working on making my talks funny, you know, and people got really interested, and I came out with a line of tapes, and it was all great fun. But then people started telling me all the time, you should be a stand-up comedian. And I just ignored it. Who wants to be a stand-up comedian? That's ridiculous. You know, I had a mortgage. What am I going to do, travel the country and do sets in little clubs and stay in condos with other pervy comics and go down and do my little 5 minutes? No, I'm not going to be a stand-up comedian. But so many people said it to me that I thought, well, maybe there's something bigger than myself trying to tell me something, and I should do it. So I put together like 5 minutes of tight material, from years of doing these talks. I had like 5 good minutes, because it takes years to develop material. Like, it takes years to develop an hour-long set. But I had my little 5 minutes, and I started going out to clubs. That's how I met Regina, because we were both at this dingy little gay club in Walnut Creek where nobody was paying any attention to us whatsoever. Everybody was playing pool and laughing and talking. And so Regina performed just to me, and I performed just to her. And we cracked each other the hell up, And we've been doing that for like 30 years now. So I was just going around, just feeling out the waters. And at this one show, this woman comes up to me. She thinks I'm a professional comic because I have presentation skills, and my 5 minutes were pretty tight. She didn't know that's all I had. And she said, I work for a cruise line, and we would love to have you come perform for us. We'll, pay for your meals and your lodging and the travel, and we'll pay you this amount of money. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you had me at meals, I would have. And so then I started performing on cruise, and then people started paying me to do comedy, and so I started doing it. So it was all sort of accidental. And let me tell you something about performing on a cruise line. Okay, it's all fun and games until you bomb, okay? And every professional comedian has to bomb sometimes. You can't consider yourself a real comedian if you don't bomb sometimes. But I'll tell you the only thing that's worse than getting up in front of 1,000 people, doing your best, and then bombing, and that's getting up in front of 1,000 people, doing your best, bombing, and then being stuck on a fucking boat with them for 7 days. 7 days! I lost 5 pounds because I never left my cabin for meals. And my cabin steward learned 4 words in English just so he could say, I heard you sucked, And then Regina and I were talking, we were laughing. I'm like, God, it's like if I bombed really bad at Enzo and I'm living with these people for life. What am I doing? And I started running scenarios through my mind, like, I see Mudge at dinner tomorrow night, and she tells me one of those awful things like, oh, I saw your show yesterday. You were very brave. Oh, don't say I was brave. Are we okay here? Is this thing having, okay, we're all right. Okay, yeah, so anyway, but I thought I would take the chance. Well, since I'd already committed to it. But, so please, if I bomb, just pretend like you don't know me, just for a few. It'll all blow over, I swear, it'll blow over fast. And that must be important. Judy, is that you? It's not me. Yeah. Do you want me to take that? Because I can. Oh, it's your pills? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. If it's pills, that's different. Pills, we have respect for pills. That's fine. Anything else, I'm talking to who's ever calling you. Okay. So those of you, I know that people here came from like all over the country, that a lot of people aren't familiar with this area. So someone that's been here for like 40 years, I want to tell you a little bit about this area, especially about what's going on north of Healdsburg. Wait, where am I? Anyway, north of Healdsburg, like when you get up to Ukiah and Mendocino and those places. Those are the kind of places where women named Hazel from Idaho move and then open a crystal store and change their name to Ocean Spray. And I said that once at a show I was doing in Mendocino, and there's always someone who gets mad about something with comedy, always. And this woman storms up to me afterwards, and she's like, I did not appreciate that thing you said about Ocean Spray. And I said, oh my God, I was just kidding, Summer's Eve. Calm down. Calm down. Okay, so you got to go up there and check that out. But I'm very happy that we're all here together. You know, I really had to come to terms with getting older and start to make plans for what I wanted to do. And I was in denial, because I was really sick for like 10 years before I had a liver transplant. I was sort of out of the world for 10 years. And then I have this liver transplant, and I wake up to life, and I'm 54. And I just felt like, no, I need an extra 10 years. That's like, I lost that time. And I let my white hair grow out at one point, and I was in McDonald's. I go to McDonald's about once every 5 years to get a small French fries, but I only like them when they come right off the thing, you know, when they're hot. So I'm standing there at the counter, and I'm waiting, and I hear this young woman behind the counter whisper to a guy, hey, what's the old lady waiting for? Old lady? And I had to really think about that. Okay. Old lady. I had to let that sink in. And I really had to fight through the denial. But you know, one morning I woke up and I realized in horror that in the middle of the night someone had attached my grandmother's arms to my body. And that same day, I was in the shower. I felt something on the back of my leg. It was my butt, for God's sakes. What? Susan? What? You know what I'm talking about. And so I started thinking about places, and I was really interested in Enso, especially because so many Buddhists were coming here. Because if I were to affiliate with any kind of religious group or spiritual group, it would definitely be Buddhism. I'm completely aligned with the principles of it. I'm just too lazy for the discipline of it. But I like it. I can't remember all that, you know. I just can't, but I like it. And I like Buddhists because they meditate a lot. So they're sort of clear and open. They have a good sense of humor. They laugh easily. I really, really, really like that a lot. So I wanted to come live with the Buddhists. And when I got here, I noticed that not only are they like that, but their dogs are like that. Now, my dog, on the other hand, my poor little doggie was tied on a chain for the first year of her life out in this rural area in the Central Valley, and was left alone out there 24/7, and there were other dogs off leash in the area that would torment her and bite at her, and she just became so defensive, and all the training in the world hasn't worked that out of her. So Bear, when she encounters any dog whatsoever, she's like, she weighs like all of 8 pounds, okay, but she's ferocious. And the dogs here are like, namaste. Namaste, little bear. I see the good dog in you. So embarrassing. And, but I love it here. Okay, there's a few things that irritate me a little bit, just a little bit. I like to just take a moment to discuss the buffet line, just if we could, just for a minute. Now, I'm going to admit right off the top that I have a prejudice, a bias, if you will, against buffet lines because I spent so much time on lines waiting for food when I was a kid in institutions and came to hate the very idea of buffet, although we called it nothing so fancy back then. So when they started doing the buffet and the line was going sort of around the building, right, I kept begging them to do a two-sided buffet. Couple of reasons. One, you've got people on walking sticks, walkers, wheelchairs, and you're like, hey, just go grab a plate and walk it over to your table. Good luck with that, you know? And no offense, okay? I mean no offense, it's all love. But some of us are slow. We move very slow. We are gentle and we meditate a lot. A simple moment can become very expansive. And I've seen it happen so many times on the buffet line. And one time, there's a gentleman in front of me, and he is just sort of existentially pondering the vegetables. And he's looking, and he's thinking. He looks to his wife. You can tell she's used to it. She's just standing there, you know. And then he turns to his wife and says, do I like broccoli? And I was like, pick a vegetable and move it along. Move it along, man. And now, first of all, I have to say, though, are the people that work in the kitchen and the front of the house, they're not the most wonderful people we ever could have gotten. This is one of my favorite things about Enso. I don't know how they found the people they found for everything, for transportation, for the reception, for the housekeepers, for the kitchen. Did you give them some sort of special Buddhist training, Susan, or something? Or like a Buddhist set of rules? Because they are amazing. I love them. And one day, Robert's behind the single-sided buffet line. And by the way, I'm complaining to everyone I can, begging them to turn it into a two-sided buffet at the least, right? No movement on that. So we've got the one-sided buffet. Robert's behind the counter, and a gentleman is having a very relaxed conversation with him. That has nothing to do with food. And there are 30 deep waiting behind him, right? And you can hear people sort of clearing their throat and shuffling their feet, and Robert is very aware of it. And this gentleman's like, yeah, and then when I started my business in 1970 in San Francisco, and Robert, I see, is getting more and more uncomfortable, and Robert starts sort of pointing to food that's down the line, like to entice him, and he's doing this sort of physical movement, like by osmosis, he can make him move, and Robert's going, do you see the polenta? Have you tried that gravy? And he was like those guys at the airport with the orange batons, which frankly, we should hire a couple of them for the buffet line. But I said, when I started thinking about doing this show, and I knew the buffet line was going to be in there, I sent an email to Rich and said, Rich, I just want to let you know, love everything you're doing. However, I am doing a comedy show, and I just want you to know that I do have about 5 solid minutes on the buffet line. But it's all love. It's all love. I just want you to know that. And I come downstairs for dinner the next day, 2-sided buffet. And I love getting to know the people here so much. And, you know, you can sort of tell people that have never lived, like, in an apartment building with elevator. Like, a lot of people have always lived in, like, a single home. Or there's some people here, it's just amazing to me, but they've been married for, like, 50 years and been in the set. You know, I've been in Sonoma County for 30 years. I've bought and sold 10 houses. Because I get bored after about 3 years, so I'm really wondering how Enso's going to work out. But anyway, but people here have like lived in these big houses for a long time, and apartment living with elevators is a whole different thing. And I can always tell who's never lived in an apartment with elevators, because when you're getting off the elevator, they're right there. They are right there. They are right there. And there's always that moment of, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You know, yeah, but I love it. Now, can we talk about this Fort Dickerson type facility that's being built up all around our perimeter? Susan, all love. I love you so much. We got to talk about it, all right? Because I knew there was something going up. Yes, I did. A little coffee shop, a little apartment here or there, a nice hotel. I did not understand that they were building essentially a castle that would surround us. Are they putting in a moat or anything to come across here? And I'm watching the buildings go up, like, oh, there's the first floor view gone, second floor view, third floor view. It's really something. It really is. But, you know, I do take some consolation from the early morning, like soothing sounds. Starting exactly at 7:29 a.m. Beep, beep, beep. Construction workers yelling at each other and swearing. It's just a soothing thing. It really is. And I'm sure it's going to be fine. I mean, we came to that presentation here in this room where they told us how fine it was going to be. So I'm absolutely positive it's going to be fine. One thing I really like about it here, and this is what I love about living in community in general, is getting exposed to different people and to their traditions and their customs. I love that. Like, I loved the Jewish tradition that we did in the dining room. I think Pam put it together, or a group put it together, and they gave out pieces of challah bread and grape juice, and we said prayers, and I loved that. And it made me want to get involved, and so I've decided that I'm going to do a Palestinian ritual at dinner tomorrow night, and that's basically where I go around to every table and yell at you for not eating enough and tell you you're too skinny. Okay, the other thing, may I just say that I've had just a teeny tiny problem with here is the pronunciation of the names, okay? You all might be used to the Buddhist names, and you just take it with a grain of salt. Me, I have to go home and practice saying it over and over again for days, okay? Literally, and because I have a bad memory, I have to really commit it to memory. So I'm at home like, Seishen, Seishen, Seishen. Azimat, 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 Chushui, Chushui. Wait, Chushui or Chushui? It's T, but it sounds like Chushui. Chushui. And then like Seishen, he was the first one that I met that I really had to practice, and I tried so hard. Seishen, Seishen, Seishen. I see him out in the courtyard. I'm like, hey, sushi. So confident. Sushi, what's up? But the absolute worst one was Fajun. I don't know why that one was so hard for me. Literally, I swear it's the truth. For months, I thought of him as feng shui. I couldn't help it. And that's how, you know, and I never used his name when I passed by him because I'm always like, oh, there's feng shui. And I knew that wasn't right. I just knew it. And when I finally did get his name right and I told him, he said that he puts the fun in feng shui. I thought that was so cute. All right. But you know, after this whole crazy life that I've lived and everything that's happened and all the difficulties and the challenges, what I'm left with out of all of that really is love. Love and humor. when I had a near-death experience, I saw that when you leave the body, that is the only thing that goes with you, is love. And so I'm left with love and humor. Well, and a few very unfortunate tattoos also. I'm kind of left with I had one, once I became a normal person, I had one that I removed from my arm, but I still have a large tattoo on my right upper thigh that is supposed to be a beautiful peacock. At least I took a picture of a beautiful peacock to the tattoo artist. But here's a little hint for you in case you know anybody that's thinking of doing this. Never do it when you're 16, have a bad sunburn, and the person doing the tattoo does not speak your language. Because it was a guy in Hawaii, and I think he'd only ever done like U.S. Marines Eagles and things like that. You know, women didn't really get tattoos back then. So I have something now, instead of a beautiful peacock on my right upper thigh, I have something that looks exactly like a turkey in flames. And I'll tell you the very, very, very worst thing about having a turkey in flames on your right upper thigh: getting in new relationships. Because you always have to have that talk, you know? Has poultry ever been an issue in your life? Is fire scary to you? And you know, I never did tell my Aunt Lily about the tattoos, never. That would have just sent her over the edge. And by the way, if you think I love it when I have family members in the audience because they can verify the truth of all this. If you think I'm exaggerating about Aunt Lily, not only am I not exaggerating, I'm downplaying it a bit so that you'll believe me. Because if I really told you how dramatic she got, like this, okay? This from my Aunt Lily. Marhaba. كيف حالك؟ أهلين وسهلين. يا روحي أنت. يا عيني. يا عيني. يا عيني. That's hello, okay? That's, you haven't even gotten in the door. You're on the front porch. That's hello. And this is goodbye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's give it up for our two wonderful comedians. Regina Stoops, come on up, Regina. And Mary Karuba.